Some of my campaigns might be like I have some 6-month campaigns right now that I'm working on with brands where we do a post every month. So we'll plan that kind of out in advance of like what dates we want to do. But then a lot of other brands will come, 1 to 2 weeks in advance, and they'll be like, hey, we want something around Mother's Day or whatever other holidays are coming up. So we just kind of plan the content fluidly that way.
Hey, you're listening to the Friends in Austin podcast. I'm your host, Justin Talent, and every week I bring you the stories of the people of Austin. Thank you for listening. Hey, welcome back to Friends in Austin. Today my guest is Rachel Holtin, and she's an influencer with a tag of Austin Foodstagram, and she also has a website where she, I believe, blogs about shopping, food, etc., and it's all about Austin, of course. It's austinfoodsta.com, then Austin Foodstagram for the Instagram.
That's right.
And I know you started on Instagram, Rachel, but before we get into that, I want to congratulate you on your recent wedding.
Thank you.
So when was your wedding? Where did you guys go? How did it go?
So we had the ceremony on Sunday, March 21st. So 21st, 2021. And we were in Mexico in Todos Santos, which is about an hour outside of Cabo.
Cool. So was it one of these situations where you were trying to get married last year and you couldn't, or was it actually just was the timing of it?
We actually got engaged at the end of last year. So I feel like our engagement was pushed back more so by the pandemic, and then we just kind of rushed into the marriage thing. But life is moving fast. I'm actually 20 weeks pregnant. So
congrats again.
Thank you. Lots of things to celebrate right now.
For sure. And the pandemic kind of coming to a close here as vaccines are really scaling up. A lot of people are upset. I'm honestly impressed. I mean, I expected everything to be a catastrophe. I mean, we've never seen something like this before. So just the fact that they solved it in a year, and then the fact that they're distributing it at the rate that they are, I'm just thankful that that's even happening at all.
Yeah, it's great to see the light at the end of the tunnel with all of this.
For sure. So do you know if it's a boy or a girl?
It's a boy.
Congrats.
You.
Did you have a preference or?
We were so convinced it was a girl, which was funny. So when we did the gender reveal, we cut into a cake that a local bakery here made for us, and it was a boy. And I was just so surprised, but we're really excited. All we care is that it's a healthy baby.
Yeah, that's great. So funny story. I used to think a gender reveal party was someone that had a sex change revealing their new sex.
That's funny. It is such a weird new thing, and it hasn't even been around that long. I feel like I heard last year that there was this blogger who started kind of the trend of gender reveals. So it's really a content play, I guess. But she started with cutting into a cake, and then now they've gone really extreme where people do those smoke bombs and explosives. I mean, people have gotten seriously injured through these. So it's getting a little out of control, but.
Yeah, I heard it was a contributor to one of the California wildfires. I don't know if that was just hearsay or if that was actually true.
No, that's true. That's when it really got a lot of attention last year, and people are kind of down and out on them, but we decided to go the traditional cake route, which I think is safe.
Should be safe enough.
Yeah.
As long as you're not cutting it with a machete, I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Should be fine. So you built up an impressive following and you built a whole business around it. There's a lot of people trying to do what you do and have tried to do what you do. So I wanted to get into, why is it that you were successful with it? But before we get there, I want to know really just the whole backstory. When did all this start for you? Why did it start? But actually, let me backpedal a little bit more. How did you even get to Austin?
I came to Austin for college. I attended the University of Texas starting in 2010. So I've been here about 11 years now. But yeah, my first years were really just at UT, and I spent a lot of time in West Campus and in kind of this bubble of Austin that was, the university. But I never really got out of that comfort zone of campus life. So when I graduated, I was kind of like, there's so much to explore in Austin. And as you know, in the past 10 years, Austin has just boomed. So especially at that time, I was graduating at the end of 2013. So I was just seeing Austin opening all these new restaurants and businesses. And I knew there was so much out there to explore that I had already missed. So it's like, okay, now's the time, recent graduate. I'm like, I've got to take advantage of my 20s and visit all these places. So Instagram was kind of my diary. And I was very early in the game. Not a lot of people were doing food or fashion accounts yet, or, just any kind of themed account outside of your personal life. It was pretty rare.
It was the very early days of that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I was anonymous with it. I wasn't even really like that proud to like be out there doing food. I was just like, I'm just going to post plates of food. I didn't tell a lot of my friends I was doing it at the time, but it was my own personal diary. And I did spend a lot of time interacting. And what I found was people were interested in this content. And so the more I posted, the more people kind of came over and they were organically engaging and looking at the restaurants and kind of using the account that I was just keeping as my personal food diary as now a way to explore restaurants in Austin. So it was very organic in the beginning. And I think that's hard to say about a lot of social media these days. So
I was curious about that. So that was the early days. I mean, Instagram probably was fairly even new. I don't remember when Instagram came out, but I mean, certainly newer than Facebook because Facebook bought it. So was that like the early times of Instagram?
It definitely was the early times of Instagram. I remember getting Instagram in college, probably like 2011 maybe, but it was around a little bit before that, I'm sure.
So yeah, Facebook, I believe, came out while I was in college. At least that's when I heard about it. And then it was like, oh, you can only sign up with an EDU address. I thought Facebook was amazing in college.
Yeah.
It's terrible now.
I know. It's so different. The social media has really like changed over the years, and now it's TikTok. There's always something new.
But getting first on the platforms, people are trying to do that more and more often and like stay on top of things. Because if you can get in first and be one of these early adopters, and then if you have interesting stuff, even though you weren't necessarily trying to do that, but like people that are trying to do that, like getting in early seems to really work for people.
Yeah, it helps with all platforms because I think what a lot of these social medias have kind of learned too is like, reward your early adapters. So even with TikTok, it's like if you're consistently posting TikToks right now, like eventually you'll probably have something go viral. I mean, there's little tricks too to making your videos go viral, like using the right song or hashtag. They have trending topics every week. So if you're actually like playing into that, you can kind of quickly go viral, which is cool for people who have never had that kind of virality. And it doesn't mean you're going to get 1 million followers overnight, but it can definitely help kind of boost that. And then it also gives you that encouragement, I guess, to keep going.
Yeah, for sure. So then did you learn some like tricks of the trade as you kind of started organically and then you saw that, oh, this is becoming something, then you just start paying more attention to being more scientific about your approach to, further build your audience?
I'd say definitely. I mean, like I said, it was such a hobby in the beginning that I was just kind of doing it. But like the one thing I was always consistent about it. I think because it was something I loved. I always was posting. Maybe it wasn't every day, but like there wasn't a week that went by since I started it that I haven't posted some sort of restaurant that I've been to. So really trying to keep that content going. And then the other thing that I was getting a lot of positive feedback with was the interactions with other accounts. So finding chefs, restaurants, other foodies to follow that were interested in the same places I was.
Cool. So when did you start to see it as something that could make money? I mean, obviously when you saw that you were getting, some organic, engagement and stuff like that, did you immediately, because you knew that they were interested in these restaurants, it probably clicked pretty quick, right? You're like, I could turn this into making some money.
Yeah, I mean, back then there weren't influencers weren't really making a lot of money off of things. It was probably about 2 years in that I got offered any type of monetary compensation.
So you weren't outreaching and asking for it, or were you?
Well, I wasn't actively doing that at all. I was just kind of going on my own to these restaurants and sharing in the beginning. The first thing before I got monetary compensation was I would get invites to restaurants. So restaurant owners would reach out and be like, hey, like we love what you're doing. We see that you're spreading the word about, our business. Can we invite you in for a meal on us? So that was actually pretty common a little bit earlier.
So you're getting comp meals at this point.
Yeah. So comp meals was kind of the first thing. But like I said, this is the early days. Like now, if you have a couple $1,000s, you might get a meal a lot quicker. You might get things rolling faster because it is a whole industry. But then it was so new that even these restaurant owners, like
their marketing team didn't know that influencer marketing was a thing necessarily.
Yeah.
Like some of them were catching on that, oh, this could be good, but it wasn't like now that's just part of like the playbook.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Back then it was like they might not have even known the value that we could bring. And so I think they over time like picked up on that, and social media, of course, grew and grew and grew, especially through Instagram. So yeah, people learned quickly.
So what was so fun about it for you? I mean, I kind of like documenting things like the podcast. This is a documented conversation. I think that's really neat. Yeah. Is it really that drive to like document an experience and kind of, like you said, a diary? I mean, that's what it is, right?
It was a food diary for me. And then also I was creating community because I was kind of attracting all these people that I wouldn't have met necessarily or had conversations with outside of the Instagram platform. So that was kind of cool. And then just food is something that brings people together. So I loved like when I was going out and documenting the food, I was going out with friends or, trying new places. So it was just kind of like a way to adventure and experience the city.
Can you think of any good examples of some kind of connection you made with someone through doing what you do that kind of maybe turned into a longer term friend or something like that?
I've gotten like all kinds of different job opportunities and things through Instagram, obviously, but even before it was like I wasn't making enough money off this. Even like it wasn't until I think the 5th year that I really took my Instagram full time. But before that, like
so you did it for 5 years before you felt comfortable doing it full time.
Yeah, I mean there was money coming out on the side, but like it's like not enough to live off of at that point. So yeah, I did it for a long time.
So were you working? Part of it you were in school, right? So then did you have to then go work while you were doing it?
Well, I had graduated from UT, so I was my first job out of UT. I was a teacher at a school here called the Rise School. So I was doing that, and then the Instagram was just kind of a side hobby at that point. But that actually transitioned pretty fast into like a total 180 of my career because I only was at the school for 6 months before I really realized that marketing was kind of my calling.
Yeah, I mean, you're a natural marketer.
Yeah, through Instagram is how I realized that, though. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, there's all these businesses. And when I was realizing like people were interested in what I was doing, I was like, well, I have like a special skill and knowledge of social media that I should probably take and try to use more as a career path. So there weren't a ton of dedicated social media jobs at that time, but I took an unpaid internship at the Austin Chronicle. And I worked as their social media intern for about 3 months, and I was nannying on the side to make actual money and just kind of like pivoted that way and started going in the direction of marketing. Then I got an agency job shortly thereafter. And then my first kind of big job that I was really excited about, I got offered to be the social media and influencer marketing lead for Favor Delivery.
And they got really big, right?
So. Yeah, I was there at a pretty pivotal stage for them. They had just raised a big round, and their new CEO had just come in.
So did they immediately put you on Instagram, or did they put you on?
I was doing influencer marketing, which we were very early and bullish on. They had actually done some tests with me before they even hired me as like one of their first influencers. So I kind of showed them like, hey, I'll put a promo code out there on my Instagram, and they would get like 100 new users. And they were, of course, ecstatic with that. So we kept doing that. And then they were like, well, what if we replicated this? At that time, they had 18 markets. So they were all over the country. And they're like, let's do this in, Denver, Chicago, Miami. And of course, there's food bloggers starting to pop up in all these cities. And since it was so new at that time, our cost to entry to work with these people was very low. So we knew we could.
They were cheaper then than they are now.
Yeah, a lot cheaper. So we're like sending them free food. We're flying there and hosting them for brunches and different events. And so at that time, like that was really exciting and cool for the bloggers and also great for us. We got the exposure. So we were able to really do a lot in that space early on. And so that was part of my job. And then I, of course, ran the Instagram too. But I really enjoyed the influencer side and building community and kind of seeing that industry start to grow.
What kind of things have you discovered that are most successful for you when it comes to building, the engagement with the audience and building communities?
Obviously, you have to put in the time and the work on the platform, but it should be fun if you love what you're doing, right?
I was going to take a step back and mention that it's interesting to always talk to people that are successful at something, and it's almost every time. It's like, because you have to like that, because that would be a grind. 5 years, if you didn't like that, like you just would have given up. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So,
it's easy to give up. And like a lot of people did start Instagrams or try to do an Instagram and go viral. And like the one thing that I think a lot of people fail is like if they just aren't consistent or they don't stay passionate about it long enough, like it's just never going to take off. But I've also seen a lot of people like, and it's harder these days, but I've seen people start since I have and have success because they are consistent and they find their audience and they find the community and people that are going to support them. And there's a lot of people out there because like other influencers are probably my biggest cheerleader because they understand what I'm doing. And like, we all support each other on Instagram and kind of keep that going. But of course you have to have those other people too in the community. And so it's just been kind of continually engaging, liking other people's posts, commenting, following new accounts and finding new people to interact with. That's kind of the constant way that I try to stay engaged with my audience and community. It is harder these days because there's bots and different things out there doing this. And so your like doesn't mean as much as it did, 5 years ago when it was truly definitely organic.
Yeah, you can see some of that, or just like people scraping hashtags and then saying,
Yeah.
hey, check this out.
So it's become more of a beast as the industry gets bigger, because now that there's money out there, people are, cheating to get ahead and doing different things. So
I heard that they ban people pretty quick like that. Like,
yeah, they have algorithms and different like behaviors they can pick up on, but I mean,
it's not perfect. Yeah,
it's
a
not
lot
perfect.
of accounts.
People get away with it for sure. Still, there was a documentary recently on HBO called Fake Famous, and they literally like made these people influencers just by like buying followers, and then they had to buy likes and comments after that because they weren't getting any, but they had these huge followings. So like they literally produced all of it and made these people influencers, and they even got some deals, which was crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I mean, to me, like building a fake audience is worthless because there's no metrics. The only thing that you could do with a fake audience is convince other people that you're legitimate for them to follow you and then gain real followers through your fake credibility. You could also con companies into paying you, but like if they're using codes to go in to get a discount, like that stuff starts to become
people
apparent.
start to notice when no one's buying. And so it is, for a lot of people that are buying, it's like it is about that credibility of like looking like they have a lot of street cred, and then they do get some people, but like you're never gonna have a ton, and like it catches up to you eventually, for sure.
After building a following like this, is there anything bad about it? Anything that you ran into? Any weird interactions with people online that have creeped you out?
I'm very lucky. I haven't gotten a lot of like negative comments or just like weird things in general, like people sending insensitive content. I've had some friends deal with that more so. I think maybe because that was mostly food, and then like I've just more recently put my picture out there. But yeah, no, I've been really lucky. Like occasionally you'll get the mean comment or two. And I experienced some of that when I transitioned from just the food to adding myself in, because some people are like, we only want to see restaurant content. And it's like, well, I've been doing this for 4 years, and like, this is my life now. So I'm going to share more than just food.
Yeah, because you have to keep it interesting for yourself as well.
Yeah, and I want it to be true to who I am. So, like I'm having a baby this year, so there'll probably be some babies on there. Like, hopefully people don't get upset, but that's going to be a part of my life now. So, I'll still, of course, always want to incorporate food because that's where I started, but there's always going to be other elements.
Yeah, I mean, it's not sustainable if it's not fun for you. So you got to find ways to work your life into it that make it fun for you. And if you lose some followers here, maybe you gain some followers there.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what I've always experienced is like people will fall off and new people will come. So
do you have any advice for anyone else that is looking? I mean, you've covered quite a bit of advice just like intrinsically in what we talked about, but is there anything in particular that you would say to someone that was looking at influencer marketing today? Would you even get into influencer marketing today if you had to start from scratch?
I'd say, I mean, like as a blogger and creator, or as someone managing the programs from a marketing perspective.
Well, let's go with a blogger and creator.
Yeah. I've done both sides of it. Yeah. So as a blogger creator, I mean, I definitely don't want to discourage people from it. I still think there's a ton of opportunity out there. It is a little bit harder than when I started. So you do want to make sure it's something that you're passionate about. But if the passion's there and you love creating content, for a lot of people, it can be a creative outlet on top of their 9-to-5 job even. So if you have the time and the will and it's something that makes you happy and fulfills you, like why not do it and put yourself out there, spend the time, find the right people that also care about what you care about. Like, yes, it's going to take time, but I mean, if that's something that you really enjoy, like it's definitely worth doing, and you can still take off and you can grow an account today.
Yeah. And maybe even as new platforms come out, you can jump on those, right? So,
yeah. TikTok's been a big one for a lot of people recently. I noticed there's a lot of Austin creators that are smaller on Instagram that have grown and amassed these huge followings on TikTok really fast. So really finding the platform that suits you and that you really enjoy using.
Yeah, the last person that was on was an artist, Gino, and he also has a cheerleading gym called Sportive Cheer in South Austin. And he's like, yeah, I've got like 4x as many people on TikTok as I do on my Instagram, just because.
That's awesome.
But I think that the fact that he's posting tumbling, which is very engaging for a video, and then artwork, it's like, I don't know how much better you could do besides like food and fashion those things,
Yeah.
art and sport and food and fashion, are really good for, things like TikTok.
Yeah, you're going to have a
Instagram.
lot of people who are interested and want to see those topics. So, yeah, I also I would rather do more of the still photography. I don't do as much video, so that's why I haven't focused on TikTok as much as I probably should, honestly. But,
Seems like you're doing all right.
It's whatever you're comfortable with. And, one platform might speak to you more than others. You really want to go where your talent's calling you.
Makes sense. Have there been any points in your career, though, of doing this? Like you said, you do like it, but have you not hit any ruts to where you're just like, oh, I don't know. Like,
definitely it's hard. Like when I taking it full time was like an extra challenge. And then, I think about like a year into being full time, I hit a little bit of a rut because it's like, okay, now that I'm doing this full time, it's like you can't really stop and like take a break, or you
lose momentum. That consistency matters.
Yeah,
right?
because now you're like, okay, I've got to like get the next deal. And so it did become more like about the business side at one point. And I'm like, you want to still be able to enjoy it. So you want to be in a comfortable spot where it's like, okay, yes, this is a business and I do still have to like find the right partners, but I don't feel like I have to just take every deal, or like, this has just become like deal after deal thing for me versus like going and covering places I enjoy and doing more of that organic content. So I'm definitely this year trying to find more of a balance of that.
Are you able to balance work and life well? Because this type of business, it's a business based on you doing what you would do normally, only turning that into a business. So is it a situation where your husband's like, honey, can we just go out to eat and like just go out to eat, please?
I feel like I forced that barrier on myself. Like I'll definitely have meals now that I don't take any photos. And so that's nice. But then of course, when we go cover, it's like, there's going to be a lot of photos. So it's kind of like deciding like, okay, what's the boundary of like, when am I going to go out for fun and when am I going to go and do actual work? So we're both entrepreneurs, my husband and I. So it's really, we have to put up those barriers because he loves what he does and he gets to work in the sports space, which is also really fun and can kind of consume you if it's something you enjoy. So work-life balance is something that we have to work on, but we also are really lucky being entrepreneurs as well because you have that flexibility in your work. So we're able to we could take a Monday afternoon off, or we can take, a Wednesday randomly off. And sometimes we might work the weekends, but, our schedule can kind of ebb and flow.
I would rather work some weekends and have the ability to take kind of whenever I want off than always have the weekend off and always have to work Monday.
It's nice to have a little bit more of that flexibility. And I think with the pandemic, even like some of these more structured companies are allowing a little more of that flexibility because we can all work online and they're seeing that like, work still gets done when people are at home and work remotely.
I hope some companies either go full remote or they at least let their employees go remote a couple of days a week just to make those people happier, less time in the car, less carbon emissions. It's kind of a win-win. I don't know why they wouldn't at least do a partial work from home after this. You know what I mean? Just because they've been training for it for a year now. So
I mean, I think for the employees that really prove themselves and can do it, like, why not? What's, the flexibility, it's a nice like job perk. It'll probably keep people around longer. Having that, I think it would be really hard to go from full remote back to the office full time. So I'm hoping that they at least wean people back to that.
It's going to be jarring. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad has a 2-hour commute, like 1 hour into work and 1 hour back every day. So it's been really nice for him to not have to go to the office. And I'm hoping they don't make him go back every day of the week, or they slowly go back.
Do you want to talk about your husband's sports application that we talked about before the podcast, or?
I mean, we could talk about it a little bit. I'm not as good at pitching it as he is, but
just the idea was interesting. But you were too far away from the mic when we started. Not now, but when we started, or else I would just use that. But since you were farther away and we haven't really started, it's an interesting idea. So
I can definitely talk about it. So my husband's app company, it's called Partake, and they are a mobile ordering app. So they actually have come to work with a couple different businesses here in Austin. They're like small bakeries where you can order food and beverage from. One is Dough, and then one is Cookie Rich. But they're more in the sports space. So they do more ordering for stadiums and venues and golf courses. So people can go out and enjoy a sport and not have to worry about going back to get their food from the restaurant. They can actually have it brought to them.
Cool.
So, and they're also now getting into the in-game like betting and, all that mobile game application stuff that's new and buzzy right now. So
and that stuff should continue to grow.
Yeah, I think so. So it's really exciting for him. I love, being with someone who's also an entrepreneur is really inspiring. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've imagined situations where maybe it would not work, depending on the kind of people those two entrepreneurs were. Where maybe it'd be better if one of them was a stable,
yeah, I mean, that's the one definitely hard part is like, I'm always like, oh, one of us needs to get just like a stable job where we make consistent income monthly. And
health insurance,
like, yeah, and benefits, especially being pregnant right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, if we had health insurance. Well, I mean, now I have health insurance. I had to upgrade mine, but yeah, being self-employed is trickier.
It's not as cheap as health insurance through an employer.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one of the big benefits. It's so annoying. It's like, it's almost like it's discouraged. I wish you could just like go and try to be an entrepreneur and still have affordable health insurance. Like, why is that so hard?
I know. I would think as like it becomes more common for people to work for themselves that things like that would get easier. But even like things like buying a house have been challenging because
yeah, that makes it it's like the whole system's designed against it, but the entire economy runs on entrepreneurship because if there weren't entrepreneurs, there wouldn't be any jobs. So it's like I don't know.
Exactly. So I don't know. But
yeah. Do you care if we like break down, your system for kind of how you kind of keep your influencer account going? Like, I'm sure you have it down to a science. So like, I think that may be interesting to dig kind of farther into that.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I can definitely share like kind of what my content creation side looks like and then the business side a little bit. I mean, I'm pretty like free flowing, so I don't have it like super structured. Like I wake up on Mondays and do XYZ, but I mean, there's definitely a process to it. And I work with a talent agent, which could be kind of interesting to some people.
What do they do?
So my agent, Lauren Seegers, I actually started working with her. I was her first client here in Austin. And she Kara Calkins, she was working with at the time, who's a big PR person here in town. She works with Bumble and Kinder Scott and some other really buzzy brands. But
Bumble's a buzzy brand.
Yeah. I didn't even mean to do that, but just rolls off the tongue. But yeah, she kind of saw the opportunity with the influencer marketing space, and she was like, could be interesting to take on an influencer as a client and see if we could build out some sort of like agency model where I take a percentage of deals that I can bring you. And so she was like really bullish on that. And so she kind of helped me take my business full time, and I started sending deals over to her, and she was able to negotiate them up for me. Because that's the hardest part is like knowing your worth too in this space. The rates are all over the place.
Oh, really?
And like you almost want to be kind of like putting yourself up there a little higher because it's like if you undervalue yourself, well, then, you're never going to have potential to kind of grow your business. So you have to kind of understand like what the space looks like, what are other people charging, what are brands willing to pay, and like, what kind of value they're getting. So she was really good at breaking that down.
Well, that would be really valuable. I mean, I didn't really think too much far into that. I mean, you'd have to be sitting there negotiating with people a lot and messaging different people. That's a lot of legwork. And then, yeah. And it's also nice to like off put that on another person. Just because it like relieves some responsibility. It's like, well, we can talk to my agent about that. And
having someone else help you and on your team is like so big for, it's just so nice. And not all influencers have that. It's actually pretty like, there's not a lot of talent agents that are working here in Austin or in Texas really in general. They're all in LA or Chicago or bigger cities. So I was really lucky to have someone kind of champion me in that way. And, she was Lauren worked under Kara at the time, but she ended up being the one who was super into this and kind of ran with it and has built an entire agency out. And she just hired a second employee. So she's got a ton of business going now and a ton of different people that she's working with. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's smart of her.
Yeah, it is really smart to jump into that space. And I know a lot of other influencers that I'm friends with here in Austin are always like, oh, I want to find an agent. And it's, there's just not enough of them out there. So if there's other people who want to, it's not easy, but if you want
Ari Gold. I don't know if anyone will get that on.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of work that goes into it, which is probably why more people don't do it. But, it's kind of a unique and niche gig.
So outside of, the agent, which helps, negotiate rates for, companies and whatnot, what does your content look like? Do you have a schedule, or are you basically just kind of like, I'm going to post X times a week? When those times are, I don't plan ahead. It's just kind of.
I try to plan my content out like 1 to 2 weeks in advance, especially things that I'm working with brands on. Sometimes it could be a month or months in advance.
Oh, wait, hold on. Because like they'll contact you and like you guys decide to work together. So then you have to come up with like, okay, maybe I'll do several things on them, and that goes over a couple week period?
Some of my campaigns might be like, I have some 6-month campaigns right now that I'm working on with brands where we do a post every month. So we'll plan that kind of out in advance of like what dates we want to do. But then a lot of other brands will come, 1 to 2 weeks in advance, and they'll be like, hey, we want something around Mother's Day or whatever other holidays are coming up. So we just kind of plan the content fluidly that way. And then the organic stuff that I just want to cover on my own, or if there's like a new restaurant opening, I might kind of throw that in for filler content.
Would you be cool with sharing an example of someone that gives you a 6-month thing like that, like a price range of what they might be offering you? You don't have to.
I mean, yeah, it's always going to be variable because every brand is a different size. So, I mean, my rates like per post, like for a small brand might start around like $500 a post to like a larger brand could be $2,000 a post. So it's super variable.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So, and it's like there's not enough of those big brands for you to be doing $2,000 every time, right? But it's like you need to try and charge a higher dollar for them because they have a bigger budget.
That's where the negotiation comes in too. Yeah. It's like figuring out like, how big is this brand? Also, what do they want? Because there's so many other factors. Like we do whitelisting, and so it's like whitelisting would be them buying the rights to the content to put ad money behind, so they can run ads through my page and kind of reach more people through that. So that's something they can buy the rights to. They can buy the rights to the images for different ads outside of Instagram. They can buy exclusivities. So if they're an ice cream brand, they might want to say like, okay, we want to work with you for 6 months, but we don't want you to work with other ice cream brands for 6 months. So then
you're only eating this ice cream for 6 months, unless you eat it at home.
Exactly. And that kind of goes back to like the original influencer was like the athlete or the celebrity, right? So they've been doing kind of these kind of deals for a while where they're like a Nike rep and they only wear Nike. So sometimes people want that with their influencers. And it is kind of smart to get an exclusivity if you're working on a longer term deal with someone. Because then, that can feel it's a little more authentic, like versus if I was out promoting a different ice cream brand every day.
You build a bit of a relationship with them, and you have a work relationship with them that lasts months.
Exactly. So it's kind of win-win for the brand and the influencer.
How is your website doing for you? I know that you were Instagram first and then later made the website. Has that been a big benefit to your business? Is it a small part of it?
I'm definitely glad I have the website. It's great for certain things where I want to really expand upon what, I'm sharing with people. But for the most part, I definitely still focus on Instagram, and it's where a majority of my traffic is. So that's kind of why I could probably do a lot more than I currently do with my website. But it's more about like, where do you want to spend your time and energy? And Instagram's the biggest thing for me right now.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But it's great to have a website. I think everyone who like wants to have a brand should have some sort of place where people can go click to you on the web and like see what you're about.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it's just a place to go and look at that stuff,
Yeah, and I do have some posts up.
I saw that you have some posts up there. Yeah,
yeah.
You're just
not enough, but.
Well, I mean, it's all about doing what makes it sustainable, right? And what's worked for you. Exactly. It's nice to branch out and do extra, but at the same time.
Yeah, and something that I thought was really cool this past year that almost is like content I would normally want to put on my blog, Instagram launched guides. So you can actually create like a list of your favorite Mexican restaurants in Austin or your favorite. You can do more expandable content. So it's something that like maybe you'd need a blog post for before, but now you can just do it on Instagram.
Have you considered coaching other people on how to build an Instagram following or selling courses, selling an ebook?
Yeah, I mean, I have influencer friends who do things like that, and I think it's super awesome. I personally just haven't done it yet. I don't know. I'll get coffee with people sometimes and just give them free advice almost. But yeah, it's not something I've built out yet. I know it's a channel I could pursue, but.
You're like, I'm chilling. I'm good.
Yeah, like
I'm good where I'm at. I'm pregnant. I'm married now anyway. So
yeah, the baby's the next big project, but maybe one day. I mean, it's definitely fun. I love coming on podcasts and talking about what I do and sharing strategy and tips.
Cool. So when you go to a place and, maybe you have this deal worked out with this brand, they probably obviously you're going to go to their shops because you have this deal. What's like a shoot look like for you? I don't know what you call it, but like you go in, you take pictures, you do video and photo, right?
Yeah, I do some video and photos. It just depends what the brands want, obviously. But yeah, we usually will schedule ahead. And so every shoot can be different. Like sometimes we might show up and they have like their PR person there, or like you're meeting with the owner. So sometimes we'll do more involved things like that. Or sometimes they just send us on our own and we go and get content. So if it's a restaurant, we might sit down for a meal and then they might send out like dishes they want us to cover, or maybe like they're like, whatever, order whatever you want, and then just kind of freestyle the content. So it really just depends. Every brand has different things that they're wanting, and some of them know what they want more than others, and some of them give you a lot of freedom, which is good in some ways, because as a creator, it's like, you know what speaks to your audience. So if you are a marketer and you're almost too regimented, it could probably hurt you, because you're telling these creators who are very successful with speaking to their audience like exactly how to say something, and I think that can be restricting to you. Most brands over time have kind of learned not to do that, or to give a little more flexibility.
Well, that's why they're following Rachel Holtin and not Amy's Ice Cream, because one of them is a human and the other one is
the voice. Exactly.
a marketing team.
And I appreciate when brands come with like themes and campaigns, because it gives you like an idea and a starting place, but like not if it's like word to word, like use this caption, like that's not going to work.
That would annoy me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like no, I'm going to go, I've been doing this for however many years. Like I'm going to go to your place, I'm going to take some pictures, I'm going to write what I'm going to write.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you take them all straight from a cell phone? I mean, I don't imagine you would need anything better, especially the way the
iPhones
are
great these
They're
days.
amazing.
So yeah, a lot of my content's still shot on iPhone. I have a nice Sony camera that I'll use for some shoots too, but yeah.
Did you ever study photography or anything like that?
No professional like photography classes or anything like that. I still don't call myself a professional photographer. There are many, many amazing
Technically, you are a professional photographer in a particular way.
Yeah, content creator. But yeah, I mean, I work with other photographers in Austin that are way more talented than myself. So, but you know, that's the great thing about social media though, and doing what I do is like people almost like some accounts are, I feel like that level of crazy professional, but like most influencer accounts that you follow, like they're kind of going more raw and like candid, and I think people appreciate that because it's more relatable.
Cool. Hey everyone, this is your host Justin. I just wanted to thank everyone for listening and give those that are new to the podcast a reminder to please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player. If you're on YouTube, please like the video, share it with a friend. That helps us out. Thank you. So you've been to a lot of places in Austin. Do you have any true favorite places?
Oh, there's so many amazing restaurants here. So this is always such a hard question to answer, but I do have a few favorites.
Does it depend on the current sponsorships you have? No,
I mean, I was going to share restaurant recommendations, and like for the most part, I don't get paid by restaurants. Most of my brands are like, you know, bigger brands like Coca-Cola or whatever, or DoorDash or whoever. But yeah, so for restaurants, it's changed throughout the years. Like at one point, my favorite restaurant was Sway.
I love Sway, the Thai place on South First. It's closed.
Yeah, I know they closed their main location, but they have the Westlake location.
Oh, I didn't know they had one in Westlake.
I'm wondering if they closed the Domain one. I think they may have.
I'd only seen or known about the one that's on South First Street.
Yeah,
South Austin.
I know that's the OG spot.
Okay, that is the original.
When they closed it, yeah.
Weird.
The pandemic, I think, has hurt so many businesses, which is really sad. But their Westlake location has been very, very popular. I think because there's not a lot of restaurants in that area.
Yeah, true. Have you had their Thai iced tea?
Yes, so good. The Tiger Cry is one of my go-to orders there.
Oh, yeah. And the son-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, another favorite. So, yeah, I love that restaurant. That was definitely one of my favorites at one point. And then Immer and Rye, the team behind Immer and Rye, and now Hestia. They're amazing. Chef Kevin Fink is the lead over there. But
where's Immer and Rye at?
It's on Rainy Street underneath Sky House, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's a really nice restaurant. And they do a lot with like grains and pastas, but everything's very innovative. When at the time that I opened, I think it was one of the most innovative and like fancier, like cool food experiences in Austin. And I think there's a lot more of that now, but they were kind of early on that. And so, yeah.
Do you do bar? I mean, obviously you're pregnant now, but do you do bars much before that or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I love covering bars and cocktails. My husband was a bartender at one point and makes like amazing drinks. So I've definitely been missing being able to have like when we were in Mexico, just a margarita or something, but soon enough.
What are your hobbies when you're not working?
So, I mean, let's see. I love movies and different things. I mean, the pandemic, we've been like so boring, but we love going on the lake. We went on the lake this past weekend. So
nice. That's one of the best parts about Austin. There's so many lakes.
There's so much to do outside here in Austin. So we love hiking. We love, traveling, of course, when there's not a pandemic.
Yeah. My girlfriend says Austin doesn't have hiking. She's really uppity about her hiking because she lived in Denver so long. I'm like,
oh, Denver, yeah.
You're on foot and you're walking. It's not a mountain, but it's still hiking. Okay,
yeah. So you're in Enchanted Rock. She's like, this is just one big rock. But I mean, there's spots to go, and yeah,
there's good hike. I mean, in my opinion, as long as it's scenic and I'm walking, that's all I care about.
Yeah, a lot of trails and nature in Austin, which makes it the best Texas city by far.
Yeah. Is there anything that you can think of that would be interesting to share about you that your followers on Instagram may not know about you and that they could get in this format?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess I could talk. I was like such an introvert through high school. So that was like, I was such a different person growing up, and in high school, I like never went out and did a lot of things. So like college really brought out that social side in me. And it's so funny seeing, what I do now and having to put myself out there so much.
Did you have any high school friends that were like, Rachel, like, why, how are you so social now?
I mean, I'm sure people that like still follow me on social and like still see what I'm doing. Like, it's funny, like some of the more popular kids from our high school, like talk to me now on Instagram or like message me about random things. And we like never conversed in high school, but I went to a big high school too, so it was kind of easy to like lay low if you wanted to. It's not like I was not cool. My mom was a teacher at our middle school, so it's like when your mom's the teacher, you kind of got to be like the good kid and lay low and
yeah, exactly,
all of that.
Exactly.
So, and I was a little shy, but I've definitely been able to kind of break out of that since being more in the spotlight and just going out more in general.
What high school did you go to?
The Woodlands High School.
And which is where? In
the Woodlands, Texas. It's north of Houston.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my dad lives in Houston now, and I mean, I'm from Indiana. All my family's in Indiana. Well, not all of them, but most of them, my core family. And then I moved to Austin in 2013 just because I was going to move to Silicon Valley, decided that it was not right over there.
Yeah.
And then
probably a good decision. You can get to Austin before everybody else.
So glad I did, because now everyone's moving here. There's so much tech here. Like there was already some tech here. And I had a coworker that was here, and he said, like, yeah, there's enough tech jobs here, and it's growing. Like, you should be fine to move here. There's not going to be as much like venture capital and all that stuff. They're not going to get quite the startup culture or maybe the opportunities you would get in San Francisco. But also, there is opportunity here, and it is growing. And then here we are, like 8 years later, and it's like, I'm so glad that I came here because I just probably would have moved here now. I probably just would have forget it.
People give up on California eventually, and they all come to Texas now. It seems.
Yep, exactly. Is there anything, I mean, you like Austin a lot, of course. There's a lot to do around here. Is there anything about Austin that you just see lacking? Could be places, could be parts of the culture.
I mean, I think it's been hard with the infrastructure here in Austin because I don't think the city was built for the amount of people coming in now. And then I think you can go into politics and everything else, but which I won't go too far into. But, I think there's definitely things that could change. That I'm like big on the camping ban being lifted was like such an issue. I feel like, so I know there's a lot of things like that people are very, have strong opinions on right now.
Yeah. I mean, so such an issue is, and it's caused a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe it's caused a huge problem, and I don't think that should be like, that's not a party issue either. That's just a general health and safety issue. And just because you don't want people camping downtown doesn't mean you don't care about people. Yeah. There's a difference.
Yeah. And people want them to get the help and resources. Mm-hmm. And so I know that there are two sides, and even the people that, are okay with them camping on the streets now obviously still want them to get resources and think they need more help than they're getting. So
supposed to be interviewing Matt, the guy that started Save Austin Now.
Oh, wow.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Nice. So. Yeah. That's a great movement. And I know the vote's coming up soon, and I think it's Prop B or.
Yes, it is. It is Prop B. Yeah. And the vote, there's an early vote in April, but there's the voting in May.
Yeah. The official voting's in May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that, because I mean, again, going back to the California thing, I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it's just like, we don't want that. That's what everyone's running away from,
Yeah. Definitely.
Just because we don't have a perfect solution now doesn't mean we should make the problem worse.
I totally agree with you. It's crazy. We were living downtown when that kind of got lifted, and we were on East 8th and 35, and so there was a huge, a ton of homeless people camping under that bridge right there, and just like I had a downtown view, but I could watch them every day, and it's just fights and different things breaking out, and it's like their living conditions aren't great, and that they could be in a better place.
But also it's like, let's not pretend that it isn't dangerous. I mean, I know several people that have felt uncomfortable, been threatened by just being in the vicinity. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like,
it
it's a
definitely
safety
like
problem.
living downtown and being so close to, we were on the east side of downtown, but we could have walked to the west side of downtown, except for you really didn't want to go past some of those areas. So it restricted that.
Yeah. I mean, Austin's not the only city, and it's not just California. Denver's got a little bit going on now too. Where my girlfriend previously lived in Denver. She began to feel unsafe there, and like, there was someone that was like trying to rifle through her stuff, and people camping around the building, and it's just like, I can't even live here anymore.
Yeah, definitely. It's too bad, and like there's so many, like Austin's so great, but yeah, it's definitely putting a damper on certain areas, and I think it's going to cause people to like move out more if it's not fixed.
Yeah. I mean, maybe then the traffic will be better, but still. I joke that everyone's going to move.
Coming in.
I joke that everyone's going to move from California to Texas. Texas is going to get like California, and then California is going to get their act together, and then we're all going to move back to California.
Yeah, exactly. California was somewhere I was always like, oh, well, maybe I would live there one day. And it's funny, like now everyone's coming here from there. But yeah, I'm like, they have the beaches and like the pretty views. So if they could get everything else together.
There's a YouTuber, God, I wish I can remember his account name, but he's lived in on Venice Beach his whole life, and he's like, his YouTube channel is now getting like millions of views because he's been documenting it. He's like, it's just, this is where they shot the film White Men Can't Jump, and Wesley Snipes was standing right here, and then it's just like a shitload of tents and all this other stuff, and it's just like he was just showing all these iconic spots where all these things were filmed, and it's can't do anything like that anymore. It's totally different.
That's so sad.
And he's like, yeah, I mean, he's like, the cops will stop someone for drinking, but if someone's doing heroin, they'll just walk right by.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what?
Yeah, there's pockets of LA that have gotten really bad. I've heard. It's been a minute since I've been, but
I once visited San Diego because I was considering California yet again, even after I decided not to go to San Francisco. Like, I loved Austin, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't drinking too much of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So I went to Chattanooga, Tennessee to check it out for like a smaller vibe city. And then I went and checked out San Diego, California. But then I realized I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, Austin was just better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like the only reason I would ever want to live somewhere else is because I have been in Texas my whole life. So I feel like I should experience other places, but we do travel a lot. So we get to see kind of like the different cultures that are out there. And I don't know, nothing's caught my eye outside of Austin yet. So
yeah, I know it's hard to compete with. I am just because the people are so nice, and there's so much. It's like, doesn't have beaches and it doesn't have mountains. That's really the only two things. Yes, it's got traffic, but I've never lived in a city that didn't have traffic. Really, I mean, it is getting
any big city.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Austin's still not even that bad, considering 35 is the like only road to get from certain parts of the city. Because I lived in Chicago for a bit. I mean, there's no point even trying to drive in Chicago. You just don't even have a car.
Yeah.
But
hopefully we can get better public transport here too.
We do need to work on it. We do need to work on it.
I think it passed, but for the railway.
It did. Prop 8 passed.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, that meant that I think they should have done it without raising property taxes. I won't get too political on you, but it's just like, you have a home, right?
So we're actually going to be buying this year. But we're looking at Buda, so we would be outside of the Austin city limits technically.
Okay. Well, Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the entire country, and Austin, that is true of Austin as well. It's horrendous when you look at like a mortgage you could get in Colorado. You could get quite a bit more expensive of a house, probably 30% more, and still pay the same price because all the money that you're paying here is property taxes. It's really bad. And it's because Texas doesn't have a state income tax, which is nice, but I don't think offsetting all of those costs onto homeowners is necessary. Like, part of the American dream is like, you raise a family, you buy a home, but it's like, well, sorry, you're doing it like we wanted you to. But
I mean, it's hard for anyone trying to buy a home in Austin right now, just because the real estate market's so insane, and then the taxes and everything else. If you're, unless you're doing super well, it's going to be a challenge. But
it's getting to the point where you almost have to be a millionaire to buy a house here.
It's crazy. Yeah, I do like a little side gig, and I run a pocket listing site for luxury homes in Austin. So I get to see all the ones that come on, and there's so many now. I'm just surprised by how many people we have buying in that $1 million plus category.
It's pretty wild. I mean, I don't like to complain too much because it is what it is. It's a cool place for people to come. I don't discourage anyone from coming here. I have no rights to this place. I wasn't born here. Even if I was, I wouldn't have any rights to this place. It's a good country. But I just hope that, you know, we can encourage good behavior and maintain the sense of what Austin is, whatever that is. I don't know exactly what it is, but I hope it's maintained.
Keep Austin weird.
Yeah, keep Austin weird. Yeah. And affordability is a growing problem. Hopefully someone figures that out.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
We
me.
need more housing.
I had the CEO of Austin Habitat for Humanity on, Phil Snodgrass. That's an interesting episode for anyone that wants to dive more into housing and what they're doing for people to make housing more affordable in Austin. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for taking the time. Congrats to you on building your following. You are a really good-hearted person from sitting down with you for an hour, as far as I could tell in an hour. I can see why you have grown your following, and it's really interesting to hear kind of your whole story and how it grew so organically. The more that I talk to you, the more sense that makes, you know, with your background in teaching and everything else. So I really enjoyed this conversation, and congrats on the wedding. Congrats on the baby. Best of luck in the house hunting. Hope everything turns out well.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here today.